Hello, welcome to Creative Conversations. And this creative conversation is brought to you by MUSEA's Intentional Creativity Museum, and we're sharing it live here in the Red Thread Cafe, which is MUSEA's subscriber community, as well as MUSEA's Facebook page. And we basically feature exciting, emergent, and creative conversations as part of our museum and membership programming. I'm Milagros Suriano-Rivera, your host. I am the Vice President of Programming for MUSEA's Intentional Creativity Foundation, a Color of Woman 2019 graduate, guild member for MUSEA, and HERF tender in our community. And I just so glad to invite you here and have you here for this conversation. So I want to thank you for joining us. Um, I want to invite you to grab a cup of your favorite beverage, and just I want to hold you on my red thread, inviting you to be in connection with us and keep your journal handy, because we never know what beautiful things that we're going to harvest when we have these conversations with our community. So we want to definitely invite you to be present to what is resonating with you. And that way you can explore that later on after our conversation. I want us to um, just explain what we are sharing with our community. This is a new year, and we are just in this place of embracing creative sanctuary and what that means as we explore the wheel of the year. And every quarter, we're going to be inviting um, our community and our membership to explore a different theme. So for these first 3 months, we are exploring the theme of reimagining. And reimagining is centered around the idea of our creative practices supporting us in moving into the imaginative abilities that allow us to reimagine aspects of ourselves, our lives, even our perceptions of the reality through the use of intentional creativity. I'm also excited that I'm in good company today. I have the lovely Trish O'Malley, who is a color woman teacher and also fellow guild member. She will be sharing her thoughts and insights with me as we go back and forth in this beautiful conversation today. And we'll also be, towards the end of our broadcast, announcing the winner of our year-end fundraiser, and that is for a painting that was created during Vivid 2022 by our very own curator, Shiloh Sophia. And she has been so generous as to offer that up for auction and as a gift to anyone who participated and gave a love gift to our foundation to help continue to um, provide this type of programming to our membership. So before introducing our guest, I'd like to invite us to land in our bodies and embody the feeling of already being connected, and invite you to take 3 breaths with me. Are you ready? So with this first breath, let us breathe in the feeling that we are called to this moment, okay? And as we exhale, we're putting down anything that had our attentions before we stepped into this beautiful container. So breathing that in and letting it all go. Now let us take another brief, deep breath and sinking into our bodies, bringing our awareness into our seats and where we're making contact with our couches, our chairs, our bikes, wherever we are. If we're sitting in our cars, if we're just standing, just knowing that the earth is supporting us. And let's just breathe that in, letting go of whatever is waiting for us on the other side of this beautiful conversation. Let it invite you to declare that you are here. Welcome. Thank you for arriving with us. Now that the earth and the cosmos are holding us and we are here in this beautiful connection of love and protection and just creativity, I want you to hold this inquiry and be with us as to what does reimagining and reimaging mean to me. So please hold that lightly on your thread as you witness Trish and I in our conversation today. So with that, I want to welcome Trish. And I love Trish because she is someone to me that has helped me with my own reimagining. And I honor her because I've witnessed how she holds community and how witnessing is part of this reimagining and imagining of who we want to be, how we want to be in the world, and how we transform those things that are really tough to work through sometimes.
Mhm.
But Trish has this beautiful gift of how she witnesses others and how she listens with a heart and
Mhm.
has helped me personally and our community in reimagining ourselves in a new way and giving us permission and courage to show up as the
Mhm.
us that we can be. So,
Mhm.
Trish, with that, I want to honor you as well as bringing presence to our ancestors, whether they are the ancestors of the lands that we're on, the lands, the ancestors from our bloodlines, and even our creative ancestors. And I was saging with the feather that I inherited from our beautiful art ancestor, Sue Hoya Sellers, and I always bring her into my circles and thank her for this beautiful, beautiful legacy of intentional creativity. So, Sue, thank you for being the mother of this beautiful thing that we share and teach.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Trish, tell us
Wow.
who you are.
Well, that's a constantly evolving experiment that I'm so grateful that I'm interested and engaged with. And there have been times in my life when I have felt um, such deep challenge and a lack of openness to possibility and not seeing possibility. And I haven't felt like I was an unfolding of something worth witnessing, let alone being in and showing up inside. I'm so grateful, and intentional creativity is part of how I have practiced um, being excited and interested, sometimes terrified, sometimes disappointed to see this emergent, evolving being. And in thinking about reimagining and reimaging, you've just really got me going on some stuff. We've had some great conversations. So I am in Santa Rosa, California, which is Sonoma County. It was lands that were tended in relative, almost pure peacefulness for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years by the Kosmiwak, Pomo, and Wapo people. And I acknowledge those ancestors, and I have Sue, one of Sue's paintbrushes here. So it's along with me today as well. And my own ancestors as well, in thinking about this, that's come up. So I don't know who I'm becoming, but I'm having a very good time. And I'm so grateful to be here with you and to be in this dialogue, just like I feel like I'm in a conversation with all of creating. I get to be in a dialogue with a beloved heart encased in a skin suit, which is what you are to me.
Thank you so much for that, Trish. Oh, my heart. Right now, I can feel my heart fluttering, just so full of love. And I know that between us is so real. So
Mhm.
I'm just so grateful for that. Um, so Trish, one of the things that we know and believe here in intentional creativity, in our intentional creativity community, is that creativity not only heals because it interrupts the trauma-informed patterns that we often operate under, but when we create with intention, love, and mindfulness while we observe ourselves in that process, we are actually being transformed by witnessing what we are creating on an energetic, emotional, spiritual, and yes, cellular level.
Mhm.
What if we had the ability to be a part of that process? And I know that we can. And that's what we're here to talk about today, right? Um, I know in preparation for us, we talked about a lot of things, and you invited me to bring up my painting.
Mhm.
So this painting here behind me is called my healer painting. And it was actually painted a few years back when I was co-leading a circle with Uma Joy, another beloved Gil sister and color woman teacher. And we were talking about meridians and how meridians work, and how energy and information is passed through in our bodies, through our cells, and how we can use that to actually be in conversation with the parts of us that don't feel right. Healing our bodies, asking our limbs if they're giving us trouble. What are you trying to tell us? And what is this pain about? And this painting, I was actually dealing with my voice and how I expressed myself. And as I was doing that, I was present to that tightness in my throat, which is sometimes constant. But having intentional creativity as a process that I can actually take that and transform it and re-image it and myself in a new way.
Will you point out on your canvas where you painted the part that is how it felt to you when you
Sure.
were, yeah.
So this is the part
Mhm.
that it felt, and I had it in a vessel and I was holding it, and that's where it was at. But I mean, it was originally here, but on the painting, I represented it here because
Mhm.
you want to include it. So it's like
Right.
I moved it, I'm aware of where it's at, and I put it somewhere just to know and remind me that that's what I was working on.
So even when I look at that part of the painting, there, my response would see that as sort of dense, sort of tight. And so you expressed it there of what is. And I think that that's part of the really important thing about the conversation we're having is that we have to begin with what is for this to actually unfold very effectively. And often we're very afraid of those places.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel like it can't shift. And you talked about our trauma responses, and so often those are really reactivity. And that means we only often get one choice, and we react without being able to see that there might be other possibilities. It's very quick sometimes, and it comes from our coping with things. We've all got something in our lives. I pretty much believe we live in trauma cultures. So we have these patterned behaviors where we're not able to even see, let alone access the possibilities there. So we don't want to go into that place because we know that we are probably going to have the same reaction that we did when the original tightening happened.
Right.
And we have to.
We
And
have
that's
to.
part of the beauty of being together.
Yes, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, because we tend to sometimes, I mean, I know for me, I've spent most of my life being reactionary. I didn't have time to stop and, I didn't know how to. So I've just, something happened, I react to that situation. I didn't stop to think about the consequences. I didn't stop to think about whether it was the best choice. I did what felt like was going to get me out of that situation. And usually it was just change your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't realize in the midst of moving, you're bringing it with you.
So then you have to change your environment again.
Yes.
Just keep those boxes packed. Yeah, I know that one. So then when you were with that, and as you were painting the whole thing, and you knew that that was the central thing that was coming up for you in that particular process, by being with that and being in this loving, compassionate witness that we try very much to have in our community, inside of painting courses and in Red Thread Cafe and other places, that we don't prop each other up with saves. We know that we're all whole underneath the layers and the scar tissue. And there's not a thing that I can fix for you, even if I wanted to. It's all inside of you. So when you're talking about those meridians, the body, for instance, is already going toward healing, but we're not always in alignment with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a good point, because we did discuss, we love discussing it, and this can go in so many different directions. I love it. It's so juicy. Talking about intentional creativity just really just it charges me so, because we're constantly in flux. We're creations, and we're constantly changing. Our skin is shedding, our cells are regrowing, things are dying in us, things are being born again in us. We're constantly shifting. Our energy is constantly in flow, in flux.
And so is everything around us, in all of the creating.
Right.
And I think that's where the magic has opened up for me, that makes it exciting to be in this experiment. And the other thing I wanted you to speak into is how, as you were with that, then you were able to put on the canvas something different in your throat. And look how you claimed that word healer in big old letters on that canvas. How'd that happen?
Because I know, going through the process, intentional creativity gives us a way of distracting our mind from that thought of thinking that new way. So it's like, while we're in the creating, it actually gives us something to distract our mind, so that we can listen to our heart and our environment easier, because we're not actually in that thought. And we're doing two things. We're quieting the mind while we're actually integrating it into the rest of our knowledge systems, our heart and our gut and our bodies, because our senses is actually what tells us what we feel. But our brain and our mind is what's actually, that thought is what's catalyzing that chemical reaction that it is working in our body. So it's like, while we're creating, I'm stopping that thought about that thing, but I'm also listening for what's truly there and how I want this new image to look.
So here's what I wonder, is if, as you are distracting yourself from a limiting story that you've told over and over, that's a reaction to not a healer, or, that's bigger than me, or whatever, as you were painting, you were experiencing on a cellular level the being a healer. You were experiencing it.
Yes, I was
and
choosing.
That came before a new story, really.
Right.
That you were having the experience, and then, as you're painting that experience coming through and that information, then there's a story that can come to it that's a new story and a new possibility.
Right.
And it's exactly a more open type of story.
Yes, it's through the reimagination and the reimagining through the process that allow us to re-image. Because first we need to see what that potential is and then bring it into form. So it's like, go ahead.
So as we were playing with these two words, which I misread at one point, you know how there's autocorrect, spell correct, and I do it in my brain too. And I went, well, we're going to talk about what? And I read one as the other. But that led us into a very interesting exploration individually and together in our conversations, which we've been having so much fun with, just getting ready for this. And you looked up something and you were speaking into it right before we went on camera today about the difference between reimaging and reimagining. And it's just got all my little sparkles firing everywhere. And I wonder if you'll share that, because I just loved it.
Sure. So yeah, so again, I love these conversations because it's not like I get on and I know exactly what's going to come up. I'm showing up as real and as authentic as I am, embracing what I don't know. So yeah, I love this because we get to explore and be with the inquiry. What is reimaging? What is reimagining? And I'm like, well, what's the difference between the two? Because it's a new concept for me too. And what I found was they used a technology, you know, a technical scenario where, and I know this because I'm always struggling with technology, or have. And usually what happens is reimage is to replace the operating system, the previous operating system. So if your computer breaks down,
those
you
are
get
my
a bug.
least favorite days.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you call IT and you're like, hey, my computer's not working. They're like, okay, we have to reimage it. We have to just shut everything down and just rebuild it from scratch, in a sense. You know,
Okay.
but before we can reimage, you need someone to imagine the potentials that that new system can bring.
So it's almost like creating a new system.
Right. Someone has to do the
it is.
programming in order for that operating system to now work. So that's what I feel it is.
That feels like that's how we just got through talking through your painting. Hopefully that clicks a little bit for people, even if you're not in this community and painting on big canvases all the time, even witnessing the possibilities and reading what other people experience, because we have crazy experiences. It's like, I have no idea why this legend, for instance, came out like this, but by the time we put the brush down, we can pick up the pen and we've had enough clues that we do know what the new operating system might be. And it's filled with possibility. And I think that just really lit me up to have that language clarified a little bit by that thing that you found in one of our really fun rabbit holes, because we get to live in a time we can find out what is the difference. So I love that, and I love that painting so much. I know that the other painting that's behind you is one you've been working on recently, and I know that when you and I talked at one point, what you expressed to me was kind of a fear and an awe that it felt bigger and really different, and that it was you in a certain way, and that felt, whoa.
Yeah, that's my Matrica painting, and she was totally a surprise. But out of all of the paintings I've had, for some reason, that she feels the most potent to me, and I know she's still speaking to me. But being in that conversation and allowing, I'm choosing to reimagine and to listen to her message so that I can reimage myself in that potential. You know, that way of being more compassionate, more connected to creation, to the mycelia of my body, as well as all of the universe, the trees and everything. And it's funny that I think about that because I've been dealing with some things, and this is just a perfect example, real life thing. And my energy's been kind of agitated today. And, and we were talking about it yesterday, like, how do you do, what do you do with that? How do you deal with that messiness, that ooh, so I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose to let go of everything and go on a walk. And I noticed that by going on a walk, I said, this is my creative sanctuary today.
Mhm.
I want to be with nature. I want to see what happens. And three things actually happened.
Mhm.
First, I saw a butterfly.
Mhm.
So that was a symbol of transformation needing to happen, or just knowing that I'm in that process of what needs to change.
Mhm.
On my way back, I actually got startled we have a little nature path between our communities, and two deer crossed my path, and he startled me. I was listening to music, and the deers, and by the time I pull my camera out to video so I can share with all of you, they scurried off. And shortly after that, I'm walking past one of the houses, and on the floor, there was, where is it? Oh, I just had it. Here it is. I found this little tiny glass gem,
Nice.
and when I looked at it, I saw my reflection.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
like, whoa.
And the magical threes. That's pretty
Yes.
awesome.
So it's like just being present to those types of experiences, not always knowing what the answer is going to be or what it's going to look like, but
Right.
being able to allow yourself to be with that question. What do I need?
Mhm.
What is
And
it
you
for
broke
me?
a pattern that so many of us have, that when we're there, we practice making just that little bit of a choice of, this is how it is, and feeling stuck. And I'm going to do something that can be very accessible and simple, which is to go outside. And we know enough about what happens in our bodies and energies in our nervous systems because of trauma that we carry, that you were also co-regulating with the, what I call the bigger body.
Mm-hmm.
And being there, your point of reference opens up. We can see the sky, we can see the small thing. And by doing that, then we come back, if we're painting, for instance, to a place of, oh, it's got more possibility in it than I
Yeah.
realized. Because when I go out there, I feel both sort of a smallness of myself, but also a humble magnificence of myself. I mean, it's like I'm a piece of something incredible that's
Yes.
evolving all the time.
Yeah.
And I matter. We talk about that a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I see that somebody asked if reimagining is the first step before reimaging. And I guess I would say yes,
Yes.
and
And
because it is, you have to be able to reimagine what you're going to install. If we go back to that computer analogy, but it's a conversation, it's a listening that gets us there, it's an observance,
mm-hmm.
and it's a process. And that's why I see so important is we're not painting a picture of a tree, even what if something ends up being a tree when we're finished. We're doing a process of this uncovering of what the possibilities of that
Yeah. And getting
are.
back to that cellular change, it's like we're actually co-creating ourselves and becoming part of the process, not just letting it happen to us, but say, I'm choosing to be aware of it. I'm choosing to feel it. I'm choosing to listen and let it inform me, and
Mm-hmm.
to hold the potentials of what I'm transforming into through this process as I watch it. And then
Right.
the reimage, I believe, comes from that symbol of what the finished form is, or what you choose to designate to say, this is that thing that, this was the thing that was, but this is what it is now, and how I'm going
Right.
to carry that.
Right. Right. And it's how we are experiencing it, both within and without. It's like allowing the brush and really truly following, listening and following that, to go, wow, it's got this possibility and beauty and magic that I couldn't have imagined from that tight, reactive old story. either. It's an incredible process we're in. Just we're in and evolving. We are co-creating.
We are co-creating, and the old story doesn't necessarily go away, but we know it's
No.
there. It just turns into something new, and being able to hold it in that new way, like acknowledge it, but it doesn't impact us the way, because we're choosing to have a different relationship with it, because now we've shifted our perspective and turned it into something different that we can hold.
And one of the things that I think is really true in my own experience is that there are situations that happen that there are events where things are as they are, and they are not what I would be choosing. And this way of being willing to be with, and then open that there are new possibilities that I couldn't have seen before, something that feels very tragic, very difficult, actually, it gets closer and closer to my present timing, that I can see the gifts in the challenge. And I'm living that now, because my partner's just had a big, big health crisis, and one where I immediately am full-time caregiver in addition to other things. And what's happened, I could never have imagined. So in those new re-imagings of what we want, and let's say 6 months ago, wanting a way of relating in my marriage that was one way, I never, ever would have imagined that the love blossoms from having a challenge. And it does if I'm in this more open way of relating, that's less reactive and shutting down the truth, and less reactive of responding to it in a way that served me at some point to get me through, but isn't the most open possibility.
Right. And even the fear, letting the fear guide you and not letting that lead you, and being with it and acknowledging and feeling it, but not letting it be the bigger voice, and I'm glad you shared that. I'm witnessing you, and Johan, also dear to my heart. Because, when we think about Vivid, what that was one of the processes I was in, is like I was dancing my daughters home, because I have a very stormy relationship with all three of my girls, which are also in alignment with my journey as a woman and my identity and what I'm trying to heal within myself. And there's a situation with my youngest, she hasn't spoken to me in over a year, and now I know what my part in that was, but I'm re-imaging myself to be more compassionate and own my piece of that and say, okay, she's doing exactly what I wanted her to do, which was stand in her sovereignty. Unfortunately, it didn't look like I wanted it to look. Okay. It meant, Mom, I'm doing me and you're not going to be a part of this. And yes, it hurts. So I'm holding that pain, but I'm actually choosing to reframe that and not make it about me, but allow myself to honor her in that, because that's her healing process.
What I love about what you did with that, and I was there and got to witness some of that, was that you painted the possibility and did the healing work and transformed without needing to even, you weren't imposing it on her, you're not sharing it you're respecting that current boundary that I believe will shift and the healing will happen. And by doing that piece of holding yourself and reimagining, I'm sure that it got lighter, and there was the celebration of it's happening in my heart. You danced them home in your heart, and it's real, and you painted that, it's real. and sometimes things don't unfold in the way we'd like, you know, and we don't always get every chance. We've all probably experienced the loss of somebody that we wish we'd said that other thing and they're no longer in a body. But we can actually be agents of change and have the experience of doing it.
Yes.
Of having it, of feeling it running through our very cells as we're creating. And it was an act of love that in this work, we talk about how even at a distance, energetically, things are affecting each other. And you've opened a portal somewhere there for that in the timing to happen, which makes it, you're not just an agent of change, you're some kind of a amazing magician. I mean, it's like, that's awesome. And changes how you feel about a situation that hurts. Doesn't mean you don't honor that it's painful.
No.
You have to.
Right. And it's the process. It's having intentional creativity as that process, that creative sanctuary, that place, creating a creative sanctuary that I can honor my practice and work with these things and honor the pain as well as the hope and the love. It's such a blessing. It's such a wonderful way to be. And it doesn't always make sense, but after a while you learn to trust it, because once you learn to be vigilant and to see, the signs are there. You know, the signs are there. And I love that, because it doesn't always make sense. And I have, you know, I'm human, so we revert and sometimes we go back to our old ways, but then that gives us another opportunity to be with the question, what needs to be seen? What needs to be felt? What am I looking towards? What is the message that the universe, creation, you know, this painting wants to give me? You know, like I wrote that down, and as part of the process, you know, after I transformed that into that flower, I gave thanks to my chest for holding my heart, you know, and I gave thanks to my throat for speaking my truth. And the message from the painting was, your story is powerful medicine. And that's even as I witnessed that I created this, you know, I'm acknowledging the discomfort with stepping into that and holding that. But I'm so glad for this opportunity in our conversation where I can model that this is what it's about. You know?
If we have a minute, I just quickly share, I brought a painting too, and I'll
Please.
So this painting I showed recently in something. It's called Seed Keeper, and it's done as an intentional creativity process. It was actually done with Terry Caradwin Bussey, or Bussey, who is an IC teacher and also received Color of Woman training. But this was a great process that for me became about honoring the exact place where I am. So I started with this soil, and then I went to seeds. And what I want to share about this is these are very specific plants, and they're all very important to me. And the seeds are not as well done as Sue, the illustrator, would have done, but they're kind of identifiable. But the thing about seeds is their potential, and you tend the soil, and you have the wormies, and you have the nutrients that you add to it. You do things to really tend the soil, and then you plant specific seeds. You're curating what you're imagining will be your garden. And this is there's a fair amount of pollination stuff in this, and you see a moth in it. But what happens isn't all in your control. And gardening is such a icy process too, in my opinion, because you're very intentionally dreaming into what's possible, but you're not in control of all the variables. So you're not in control of weather patterns, at least most of us aren't. And you're not in control of things that could happen that could pull you away. You're not in control of some sort of an outbreak of disease that hasn't been seen for a while, or what we call pests. You're not in control of all that. You're also not in control that just because you picked a sunflower seed, that it's going to look like the one on the package. Because seeds also sometimes do some interesting things in response to environment. They also may have it in their DNA. You're like that too. So you may end up with a double sunflower. You could end up with a different color. And I think that's also important as we're talking about, you're imagining, but you're not getting attached to the best of your ability, and that's a practice, to it's going to look exactly like this, because on that year when it's different and you get some of those, some of them are really cool gifts, and you wouldn't have imagined how cool it was to have a white sunflower in that patch of yellow ones. So then you get these gifts just like on your walk. So I just wanted to like presence that way that we can curate with the universe and all of creating. And it's a dialogue, and I'm making adjustments. If it looks like my plants are too wet, I can make adjustments. It's a conversation.
Yes.
Do the same thing, hopefully, with my own being. And that's part of being in community too, is to reflect to each other in ways that we don't always see as accurately. We've all kind of got those old stories about who we used to be. And part of the gift of loving you and being in relating is that we each sometimes reflect, well, I see that, even if you can't yet.
Well, thank you so much, sister, for seeing me. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. I know that our viewers are enjoying this, and we're looking forward to continuing tweaking these threads and just pulling them out. And it's just to get us started. So, but I know that we want to take this opportunity to give them what they really came for, which is the announcement of the winner to the Dancing Each Other Home drawing for Shiloh's original painting, Dancing Each Other Home, from our Vivid year-end fundraiser. So hold on to your hats, people. We are going to do the drawing right now. Thank you so much for staying with us and for viewing. And give me 1 second. Here we go. Hold on. All righty. Give me 1 second. Here we go. The winner is, let's see. Maricela Zenko. Yay! Congratulations to Maricela. You are the new owner of Shiloh's Dancing Each Other Home Painting, and I am going to be reaching out to you via email to share instructions on how to claim your beautiful prize. I want to thank everyone who contributed and gave from their hearts so that we can continue doing this work right here for our community and our viewers. It's just beautiful work. It's just so great to be part of this happening and choosing to be part of it. Oh, wow. I don't want it to end.
Me either. But I'm sure we'll pick up this red thread another time. It won't exactly end. That's part of the beauty.
So, Trish, from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for all you give to our community. It's been truly a pleasure and a gift to be witnessed by you and to witness you today. I hope our viewers enjoyed, our little talk. Congratulations again to Maricela. And I want to just share that this creative conversation is one of our foundation, Intentional Creativity Foundation offerings, and one of our member benefits. So if you are not a member and would like to join, I want to invite you to go to our memberships page. And that's just imusea.org/membership so that you can see the benefits that you can get from becoming a member. Creative Conversations, again, is one of those wonderful membership sorry, my dog just barked. One of our member benefits, as well as Pop Open Studio, and that is happening this Friday. And it is a wonderful 3-hour open studio that is hosted by myself and my beautiful guild sister, DJ Wisdom Samaya Yates, and she will be turning the tunes and keeping us moving so that we can just share our projects and come in and honor our creative practices and our creative journeys. So that's another member benefit that we want to invite you to, as well as share that we are having our next museum show, which is the Living Legends Museum show for those who have ever taken legend class. And we are actually inviting you to submit any legend painting from 2008 to current, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, from 2008 to 2020.
And you can submit 3.
Submit 3 paintings, any 3 of your legends. I've done 3 myself, so I'm looking forward to submitting. And
I'm excited to see sort of the evolution of and the transformation, the evolving and the creating of the entire weave too.
Yes.
This will be so cool to see because it's exactly what we were talking about.
Yes, the reimagining and the reimaging ourselves into that legendary self that we know inside that we are, and using intentional creativity to make that and bring that into form and choosing to live it out, So inviting all of you who have done legend to please submit. The open call is now until February 8th, and the museum show and exhibit will be on the 22nd of February.
So exciting.
All right. So looking forward.
And I know we've got an opportunity for people to actually experiment and practice with what we were talking about today, and this alchemical transformation that you can do because Apothecary is coming up.
Yes, it is. And we will be sharing about that as well. So keep your eye in the Red Thread Cafe.
That'll be
early March. Apothecaries. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the reason I became a color woman teacher. I took Apothecary and it changed my life. And it's all the same thing, just choosing to engage and be in your essence and reframe and transform and create our own remedies, from our hearts. So I guess this is where we say goodbye, Trish. Thank you all for being with us, and we will see you soon. Tugging. Bye.
Always. Bye-bye.